All right. Naomi put up some Christmas lights. It's pretty good, huh? Today is not technically today is more of a catch-up, a part 2, if you will. All about this guitar. You remember this guitar, don't you? My 1992 Fender Telecaster with a 1995 Fender Strat neck. Here's what happened. Recently, I've been playing my Telecaster a whole bunch, and I've noticed that something has been going wrong for the last year, which has really been bothering me. I don't know what it was, but I'd be playing and playing and playing, and then suddenly it was as if the jack was being weird, or the switch was messing up, or the knobs were just not responding. Something was up. I love that Telecaster, but because of the electronics doing me dirty, I couldn't, in good faith, take it out to a gig just in case it messed up, which it has on a couple times, which sucked. So right as I'm thinking I should do something about that, I order a James Home of Tone Tele wiring harness, which is fantastic. Everything's in there already. The jack, switch, the pots, they're all wired up. All you need to do is just wire the pickups and ground, and that's it. I use James Home of Tone all the time. He's in my Les Paul Jr., my green one. He's in 2 of my Epiphones. He's in a whole bunch of my guitars. James, you're amazing, and I love what you do. So that's why I had no worries at all by going into getting this wiring harness. It's fantastic, and it usually comes with sweets too, so that's a big buying bonus. Anyway, I should say that I'm not affiliated with James Home of Tone. Let me tell you another problem that I had with the electronics as well. The volume pot was super fast, and the tone pot was pretty slow and stiff and hard to move. And the switch was starting to crackle on me, and I figured out what all the problems were. The problem was the switch on the bridge pickup was just starting to corrode. So that meant that if you get it in the right angle, you wouldn't get any sound. And when you switch to the bridge, you'll hear a little bit of like dust and the sound, which I don't want ever. And also the tone control wasn't doing the most it could be, which was bothersome. So I decided to go for this James Home of Tone wiring harness because James does amazing with his electronics. They make all of my guitars behave like that one right there, my 59 custom shop Les Paul, because of the paper oil capacitors and the high quality pots and cloth wiring that he has. I couldn't tell you why that works, it just does. From my hands and my experience, it really, really works. You can get similar effects out of it, but if I can be a snob about it, I will. And I'll get the oil and paper capacitors because I like the way they sound, I like the way they feel. My theory was that when I plug this in to my telly, I wire it all in, both controls would work at a steady speed, and when I turn down my tone, I'll turn down and down and down and down, and I'll still have like a good amount of clarity as I do with other guitars that I have with his wiring harness. That was my theory. I did the whole thing, and let's see how that went, shall we?
Okay, here's the deal. I got a new Black Friday sale microphone that I'd very much like to test out. So we're going to do a quick time-lapse commentary for you. Here we go. First things first is take those screws out of the control plate. Once it's out, get a good look and see what's going where. Check out where the pickups are going and how the switch is wired. Doesn't really matter because we're changing it, but it does teach you a lot. Always takes me ages to get the pot hot enough to take out the wire. Eventually, I end up giving up and looking for some wire cutters. They weren't in my drawer, so I had to look elsewhere. I was thinking about trying to save this, but I thought, nope, I'm just going to take it all out. Doesn't really matter. I tried stripping it too, with the wrong tool, so now I've got the right tool. Just getting the tips good makes it ready for tinning later on. Twisting the jack wires out the way as well. Keep everything tidy as you work, you're not tripping over yourself. Get plenty of pictures when you take out stuff like this. Knowing what goes where is one thing, but getting pictures of it you can use later is another. It's so much more helpful. Who's that? Now it's time to pop the wires off. Super fun time, but also kind of scary. I always think I'm going to hold it like a pencil, even though I know better. I'm just scared of burning myself. So I'm trying to get my hands clear.
Extreme close-up!
And here is the complete harness, as it was stock. Stacked tone knob with the treble bleed, very weird. I had the screwdriver to get the knobs off, but they were the wrong size. I had to find the right screwdriver. This one I keep around, but it always falls apart on me. There he goes. You can see all the oxidation on the chrome. It's super cool. I'm really glad I got to keep this. This part to me feels like guitar Lego. It's really cool because it's just parts going where they need to be. Not really much thought goes into this part because it's just put the screws where they need to be. It's nice and easy and it's kind of therapeutic for me. Pay attention to this part, okay? Right by the switch. This is what I used to get the neck round on, but I couldn't find it because somehow it went missing. I had to find a new way later on. I had no idea where he went. And this thing here, if I had the right size, this would have been a much easier job, but I didn't. So I had to use some needle nose pliers. Very finicky, very fidgety and annoying, but eventually you can get a grip and get there in the end. It was fiddly. Now that's off, I learned so much about this instrument. I had no idea this was here at all. Sorry Mum, I had to use the towel to get the wood chips and dust out. But look at this little metal plate there. That's so that the jack plate stays in place. I never knew that. It's pretty cool. And now I have a jack for any other projects down the line. Now it's time for Lego Part 2. Get it out of the harness and back on to the plate. I tested out the way I would put on the cover again because I knew it was going to be awkward. So I put the washer on and then I used the tip of my screwdriver to push it on into place. It worked, so I ended up doing that. There he is again. Now it's time to solder in the joints again. There goes the neck live. And now the bridge. As I said earlier, that little tiny part that was on the switch before really threw me off because I was looking for a place to find the ground. I ended up putting it onto the volume pot, but in the wrong place. So I did some research just to double check what I could do. James does have things online that you can use, and it did help, but looking at other places as well helped me out even more. And now that's on. You can hear it, can't you? Had to do a little test, obviously. Now all I had to do was put it back together, and let's see how it sounds.
So now the electronics were changed, and I'll tell you what, I was wrong about my hypothesis. I expected that the tone control, when turned down, would give me lots and lots of room with still some treble clarity when I get down to like 1 or 2. And it's not technically wrong, but it does get a lot darker than I expected, which is great because that means there's a whole lot more range in the telly, which I love. I changed the neck pickup since we last spoke about this guitar. Thanks to Chris Walsh, he brought his American Vintage reissue Telecaster down to a jam night one time, and we hosted it together. And I broke a string on my telly, and then he let me use his, and I loved it. It was great. And it was really, really chewy on the neck. And this is the kind of guitar which made me think I should look into adjusting my electronics. I bought a neck pickup. I found an American Vintage reissue pickup. I put it in the guitar, and while I was there, I also crowned the frets. That was dangerous, but I did it, and it's playing a lot better now, so well done me. Changed the pickup, string it up, sounding good, but it's not sounding as chewy or as like clear as Chris's was. So that's when I decided to put in the wiring harness. And I'll tell you what, I'm really, really glad I did. James does some brilliant stuff with these wiring harnesses. They're absolutely fantastic. While I was doing it, there's another thing I found out. You know how people say that the old Telecasters, the jack plate can just fall out? And that's why they sell those cone-shaped ones that you can just drill straight into the body. Well, I was expecting that they haven't really addressed that since, because it looks the same as it has for 60 years. But I was wrong. I opened it up, terrified to take out the telly. As you saw, I was struggling because I didn't have the right part to do it right. And I was terrified that it wouldn't go back in. But it has a really smart thing. It's got like a spacer inside the wood made out of metal, and you put the jack plate through that, and then you put in the socket, and then you screw it down. So there's a bit either side that's keeping it in place, which is crazy smart. I had no idea that was a thing, but I'm really glad it was. Another thing to bring up is James supplies an extra long thread, so that way you have lots of room for your jack if you just find it a pain to get it all the way in. The one before was flush, which was good, but kind of finicky to adjust and take it off. But James is super long, so that way you have plenty of room, which is really, really helpful. Thanks for that, James. Another good thing about the way that James makes these is that they come on a MDF plate, basically already in position, which makes it really, really good. You just take off the screws and you put it on, which is fantastic, because it goes right onto that base plate. I was really concerned that I'd have to get rid of the base plate. For some reason, I'm really attached to it because it's really worn in and it's getting matted and dark in some areas, which I love. I love the look of the way how this telly's coming out over its age. I mean, this thing's over 25 years old now, which is great, I just love it so very much. So I'm really thankful that it stayed the same and it's got the same base plate. It's an under the hood upgrade. You don't even know it's there, but I know it's there. So I like that. It's a secret upgrade. And that's that. That is my 1992 Fender Telecaster with a 95 Fender Strat neck with a new pickup, a little bit of a fret job by me. Thanks to the lockdown, I learned how to do that. It's very good. And now it's got a new wiring harness and it sounds great. Bye.